Huh. I was actually introduced by a friend, I think. She saw it on a sponsored post and she asked me because she was like, "You're pretty good at writing." So she's like, "Why don't you give it a try?" And it was like, it's like an open-ended question, like global citizen. I thought I would just give it a shot. Didn't expect to win it. Let me give a think about that. The first person that comes to mind is like from my favorite football team at the moment. There's a player that we just bought, and his name's called Thiago Alcantara. He has Brazilian parents, in Italy, grew up in Spain, spent a lot of time playing football in Germany, and he's like the epitome of someone who has immersed in all cultures. He speaks all languages, right? He can connect with people who are from any nationality, which to me, that's what a global citizen is, right? He does manifest all those qualities. I'll try to think of a second person. Oh, okay. There's a food blogger. No, actually, there's a chef called Eddie Huang. He's actually the person who started the TV show called Fresh Off the Boat. Yeah, and he wrote a book called Fresh on the Boat too. Another one called Double Cup Love. He has a show on Vice that's about, identity and food and culture and travel. He's a global citizen. He's like a Taiwanese heritage, but born in the U.S. And when you see the way that he talks to people when he goes around and travels around, he speaks to people like they're humans. He doesn't look at other people like he's the other. He talks a lot about as well him being Taiwanese in America and him being, excluded from dominant culture. I think that embodies global citizen in a lot of ways. So that's my second person. I mean, I did just read a book by this author called Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She's actually Nigerian, and in her book, she was talking a lot about herself being a Nigerian woman moving to the US and being a student there and, realizing, cultural diversity and herself being a Black woman there. She talks a lot about being a global citizen in that sense too. So I think, yeah, and she tries to challenge, the stereotypes of what people think an immigrant is. I like that a lot in her book. And yeah, to me, she is a global citizen. She's like, she's not lost her heritage as a Nigerian woman, but she's been able to go to America and become successful and help other people become successful too. So that to me is a global citizen as well. I think the media doesn't do good enough of a job defining what a global citizen is. I think, if we consider most of the media that we consume is at the end of the day Western media, right? From most of the biggest Western countries. So it will be biased in that sense. I don't think it has enough voice from minorities and, just a little bit more diversity. But let's say in the sense of music, I think music's great. Like, I think when we're talking about music and diversity in music, for example, I love house, I love trance and techno. When I go to these events, especially Music Festival Abroad, in what other situation would you see people from so many countries come together and enjoy something so harmoniously and peacefully? Like, how often does that happen in the world, in the greater scheme of things, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing, It's that music really can bring people together. It kind of puts everyone on the same level. There's no, this person is better than I am, or I'm better than this person. There's no hierarchy when it comes to music, right? Essentially, it's just a bunch of people who enjoy the same music, sitting in the same room, not fighting with each other, I cannot really think of many situations where we can find a scenario like that. I mean, some might call it cultural appropriation. Some might say they're trying to replicate something that they're not. I think it's okay to draw inspiration from other genres or other cultures, but, throw in a bit of your own uniqueness to it, Like, I think Asian societies are kind of lacking in that aspect, where I think not a lot of people, except for K-pop, let's say, or maybe even Japanese pop. I don't think a lot of people, you know, in the world know about the music scene in Hong Kong and Singapore. Perhaps it's not big enough for them to notice, but there is one. I do think there is one, and it's worth checking out. I think there is, you know, a growing music scene in places like Hong Kong and Singapore. You just have to find it, you know. I definitely think there are. I think if you walk into Chungking Mansions, that is what I think manifests global citizens. Chungking Mansions is, if not the most multicultural place in Hong Kong, where else would it be, you know? That to me, I think defines what a global citizen is, the people in there. People want to go to New York and they want to go to, like, I don't know, Los Angeles, or like, oh, it's a melting pot. I'm like, well, Chungking Mansions is a melting pot, right? It's as much of a melting pot as Hong Kong can get, essentially. You know, and they have good curry, so that's a plus, right? They've got good Western African food, so if you want to do that, they have that too. So you might as well go there.